Dear readers, meet Nicole Zhu, a fitness expert with a solid background in kinesiology and health science. As a baseball development coach at Jay's Care Foundation and the general manager of Fit for Less, Nicole combines her expertise and extensive experience with a genuine passion for fitness. In this interview, she shares her journey, practical advice for beginners, and the importance of consistency, motivation, and a positive mindset. Whether you are a fitness enthusiast or just starting out, Nicole's insight will help you build a healthier and more balanced life. Welcome to the interview. First of all, so far the conversation we had just before switching on the record button, would you kindly share your journey and what inspired you to pursue a career in kinesiology and health science? And first of all, for our readers, just decode the term kinesiology and everything, please.
Of course. So kinesiology is the study of the body essentially and just fitness. And to put it simply, it talks and focuses especially on human anatomy and how the body works when it comes to fitness, to exercise, and just overall health in general. It's a really good starting point for a lot of people who don't really know too much and they want to get into whether it's the fitness lifestyle or even the fitness career. And a lot of people also take it as a stepping stone to go into the medical field. So a lot of people have used it to become doctors, dentists, physiotherapists, chiropractors. It's honestly a all around really good stepping stone.
And this kinesiology is basically the science of human anatomy?
Yes, and the science of human movement and how the body moves and just how all the muscles and organs and everything in your body works together to essentially bring you to life, basically, and to also help you in fitness and just overall health. I believe that understanding or having a basic understanding of all of this can really help you understand when something goes wrong in your body and how it can really help you, and also just how fitness helps you as you age.
Fantastic, fantastic. I had no clue about that. So, but it's very good to know that the whole science is behind it. So, how has been your experience? Let's start with our places of like we belong our heart to. So, how has it been your experience in a baseball development coach as Jay's Care Foundation, and how that influenced your approach to health and fitness?
Yeah, so obviously a big thing that the entire world has gone through, unfortunately, is the COVID-19 pandemic. So the biggest thing that Jay's Care has really been focusing on and has been instilling in our brains is that, yes, all of us went through something tragic and it impacted our lives, but we were missing the bigger picture. Many of our youth were essentially suffering the most. They were going through a lot where they couldn't be in schools, they couldn't go out for recess, they couldn't do a lot of these things. And especially in a big city like Toronto, many of us live in apartments. So there's not, we don't have stairs to climb for some kids. We couldn't even leave the house, play on the playground. We didn't really realize, I think, especially for me, I didn't realize how the simplest forms of physical activity of just playing on a jungle gym was really developing a child's motor skills and social skills and just skills in general that they needed to develop into functioning human beings. And there were many studies that were done over the course of COVID and especially afterwards to see how youth were impacted. And it was mind-blowing to see how many youth, they were not only behind mentally a couple grades, but also physically. There were many studies where some kids couldn't even climb stairs properly at the age that they were supposed to. So if they were 12 years old, for example, you would imagine a 12-year-old has no problem going up the stairs. But a 12-year-old who's been impacted by COVID for, say, 3-4 years, it took a toll on them. And it's it blew my mind. It was crazy and also heartbreaking to see the physical implications that they really had from all of that. So the focus from Jay's Care was to bring a lot of physical activity back into the world of these youth, specifically focusing around baseball and like other sports in general. But just bringing back this physical activity for them so that they would be able to redevelop those skills, work on those skills, and help them honestly in the long run, and also help them develop their social skills and anything else that a kid might need. Because we usually work with a lot of families who are part of at-risk families in Toronto. So they're part of the at-risk neighborhoods. So they don't always get access to certain sports, certain physical education. Like I said, a lot of them would probably live in apartments rather than houses because cheaper for the most part.
No wonder while listening to you, suddenly it dawned on me that that is why it is called motor skill. It's a skill.
Yes.
Fascinating, fascinating. Just to, whenever you hear it from a person who has this live experience with it, it becomes so vivid in front of our eyes. So, in your opinion, thank you. In your opinion, what are the most significant health benefit of participating in a team sports, and how can individuals get involved? Because you mentioned motor skill and social skill.
Yes.
So individuals get involved to their communities, please.
Yeah. So obviously, many people understand that just physical movement in general can help the body so much, especially when you're starting out younger. It sets you up for basically sets you up in a really good place for throughout your life you're going to be involved in physical activity, or just doing something as simple as walking around and getting in a few steps every single day can really change just not only obviously your physical health and it gets your body moving, but I've also found that it definitely helps a lot with your brain health and just your mental health in general, because I feel like really a lot of people really do underestimate the concept of getting outside or getting moving. For me personally, I find that it really clears my head when I have a lot of things going on. And I've noticed in the kids that I work with as well that it's just something fun. It gets them to forget anything else that's really going on in their lives, whatever it may be. And it just improves, I think, your energy levels as well, and obviously like your happiness and everything. And in terms of health benefits or just benefits in general, in terms of socially, obviously team sports, you are working with other people and you're working with many different people from many different places around the world, especially in Toronto. So it's about learning not only how you communicate as a person, but how other people communicate, how you work together to overcome certain challenges, whether it may be gender-based or it might be physical limitations, if they have any disabilities, or just in general of even culturally or ethnically, many people do think differently as well, depending on where they're from and how they're raised.
Yes.
So the biggest thing is just learning not only how to be around these people and how to coexist, but also how to work together with in a team, because so many team sports can be taken into just workplaces and also just future endeavors, because you are always going to be communicating. You're always going to be needing to work with other people, and understanding how to do that comes from sports, comes from physical activity. And I wish I could explain it better other than you would just have to everyone just experiences it and then you understand the difference that it makes.
I can totally relate to you because my son is in spectrum. So whenever I take him outside in the movement and specifically in a team sport, he enjoys. And those are the few things that very positively impact him a lot. So whatever you are saying, I can instantly relate to it. And regarding also that Toronto is a culturally melting pot, and obviously I'm an immigrant, so my son also comes from a different cultural background. But whenever he's mixing up with other cultural people from other kids from other cultural background, they interact so much, and kids are like really flexible. So they
Yes.
mix each with each other so nicely.
Hmm.
Fascinating. So totally relate to that. But one thing that stood out from your statement, many people, you just say that many people underestimate the impact of movement that it can have positively on their life. On that note, we would like to know, our readers would like to know, what are some common misconceptions about fitness and health that you'd like to address?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in our day and age, and especially with a lot of younger people, with a lot of youth, is just that fitness and health, or being fit or being healthy, means they have to look a certain way, or that they need to fit into, like, when somebody says that word, like, think of somebody who is very fit, think of somebody who is very healthy. Automatically, a lot of us will generate a very stereotypical image in our brain of what this person looks like, whether it's ourselves or somebody else that we look up to, an athlete or anybody. And I think, especially through my own journey, I've really learned that being fit, being healthy does not mean that you look a certain way, you weigh a certain way, or anything like that. Because, especially not only for myself, but for many of my friends, I know for a fact that if somebody were to look at them, unfortunately, many people would have the assumption of, I'm not sure this person is fit. I'm not sure this person is as healthy as this person or as myself or anybody. But then when you really put them to the test, or you put them in certain environments, you find that they actually function better than somebody who looks a lot more healthy. So just because somebody looks a certain way doesn't really mean that they're fit, or that they've reached the certain goal that they're looking for. I understand that many people do try to achieve certain, I guess you can say, aesthetic looks in the fitness industry and with their health, which is great. And I think that everybody should have their own goals, whatever it may be. But it's very easy to assume that you are not healthy anymore, or that you are not fit anymore, just by looking in the mirror. I mean, we are our own hardest critics, right? So it's just something that I really wish a lot of people would keep in mind. And even for myself, I catch myself sometimes not remembering that. And I think that's the biggest misconception in the fitness industry with social media right now, too. Just
Oh,
everyone posting photos and videos. This is what I look like. This is my journey. Even the before and after photos, it's always showing, for the most part, somebody who's lost a lot of weight or who's toned a lot of their muscles. But that doesn't always necessarily mean that you're healthier than the next person.
while you're talking, suddenly all the cover pages of Men's Health was in front of my eyes and everything. So,
Exactly.
so fitness, fitness is about stamina, resilience, adaptability. According to you, what? What is fitness?
I would say it's not even any of those. In my opinion, I think it's something as simple as just you are happy and you are able to function in your everyday life with no implications, such as no pain, no difficulties, like when it comes to maybe difficulty breathing, or just doing everyday activities where you are not limited to anything. Speaking from just personal experience, watching, I never really understood this until a couple months ago with my father. He had a heart attack earlier this year. Luckily, he's okay. But watching him go through basically the recovery process of all of that really makes you realize that a lot of physical activity is, or just fitness in general, being healthy in general, is being able to function and do the simplest things. For the longest time, he wasn't even able to walk up the stairs, and he's not very old. He's probably around like 66, 67. He should be able to walk up the stairs. He's been an athlete his whole entire life. But something as simple as that, because he wasn't in his peak health, he wasn't able to walk up the stairs without the help of my mom or myself. So
Oh,
it's something that you really realize, that being physically active every single day of your life, or just active in general, helps in so many different ways, in the most basic ways. So I think that being fit or being healthy means you are able to function every single day without implications.
without implications, yeah, or without limitations, yeah.
Limitations.
Uh,
Yes, exactly.
so no, fantastic, because I have never seen fitness in that way.
Yeah.
Whenever I say I imagine the word fitness, it's always muscle,
Hmm.
huge weight, and as you mentioned earlier, looking aesthetics, like aesthetics comes to mind, and yeah, and specifically the rise of social media, Instagram
Yes.
specifically. But the way you explained it with your live experience, and um, thanks Mother Nature, your father is okay. But yes, my father is no more, but he had asthma.
Yeah.
And I saw him, like some of the times when the attack was there, he could not function. And whenever you were saying this and you were saying about your father, I could easily imagine the two different episodes that my father used to have whenever he was not affected by asthma, and whenever he was affected by asthma, he could not function properly. So
Yeah.
it's so true, so true. The way you explained fitness, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and how you, so we know that mind and body is very, very internally connected in a
Hmm.
very basic level. So physical activity, how does, like in your opinion, or from
Hmm.
your experience and expertise, how does physical activity play in maintaining mental health? And what are the some, is there any simple exercise to incorporate in the daily routine? We know that first disclaimer is that everyone's need is unique, but
Hmm.
is there anything like any kind of movement or any kind of exercise that can boost up mental health, or it's an overall thing? You just unpack it in your way. The floor
Yeah.
is.
So obviously, like you said, it really depends on your physical capabilities. Obviously, not many people are, depending on the situation you're in. And also, I think it really also takes an impact of what age you are at.
Yeah.
I find that also just going back to something that you asked earlier that I forgot to talk on, which was just how can you get involved in physical activity in a community? That plays a role here where I think especially when you're a lot younger, I think it's a really, really helpful to just get involved in any sort of physical activity that you can find, whether it's school teams or if parents put their kids into anything, or just if you have siblings or friends, or even with your parents, just anybody in general, getting active in your backyard, going to the park, going to different things. It doesn't always have to be a sports team, because I understand that people can get very intimidated sometimes when they hear the word sports or team or game or anything, because it becomes competitive, and I can understand the feeling behind it. I know a lot of my youth also felt that way about sports, where they didn't really see it as fun, they didn't really see it as physical activity, they saw it as competition and, oh no, I'm going to lose. So I think when you're younger, just doing anything, especially because you have so much energy and usually less limitations than when you're older.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of less responsibilities, because many of us work full-time jobs and we have kids and mortgages and bills to pay. So when you're younger, I think it's important to take advantage of it. When you're older, I know that's when it starts to also get a little bit more difficult to get involved with physical activity in general. And again, I will take something from my parents. Both my parents are retired, and I noticed the best thing for them has honestly been going for walks in the community and
True.
everything. It's
True.
something as simple as that. Obviously, if you are physically able to take a walk and everything, but just getting that fresh air involved, and just I think finding something that you really enjoy, that you sometimes might not even think is physical activity. For example, my mom, she loves Tai Chi and she does that religiously.
Wow.
Um, but for the longest time in my brain, I think, especially when I was younger, I didn't really think Tai Chi was physically active. And I didn't really think you were moving too much or doing too much from it. But I've seen the health improvements that it's given not only to my mom, but also to my dad. So you may not think that something as simple as like going for a walk is physical activity and is going to help you in the long run. But if you're doing it almost every single day and you're doing it consecutively and consistently, it really does make a difference. So I don't think there's ever just one specific way to be physically active, or you have to be getting your heart rate up or anything like that. It's something as simple as going for a walk, or instead of, I guess in Toronto, instead of taking the streetcar and waiting for a long time, just walk a couple blocks.
Uh,
That's your physical activity for the day. Or instead of driving to the grocery store that is down the street, why not just walk over and grab like a little trolley or something to work up a little bit of physical activity? It really just depends. It's the simplest everyday things. Or for even some kids, I've seen a few of the kids do this in their homes and everything. They're running up and down the stairs.
yeah. So recently, a few months back, like 3, 4 months back, my doctor suggested me that you are in a completely sedentary lifestyle, so you should move around. So I said, I can't do those gym things and everything. I'll be very ashamed to go there. Again, competitive mentality that you just said. So I said that I'll start by walking. I'll go to gym, but I'll start by walking. Let's shed some weight and everything. So currently, I think I only go for walking. 6,000 steps. That's my target for every
That's
day.
also more than enough. I feel like people really don't understand how much that actually does for you. Even something simple on your lunch break, instead of like, you can bring a lunch, but if you find that you're going out, or if you want to grab a coffee or something like that, just go for a walk outside, especially when we have the nice weather.
Yeah.
Obviously, in winter, it's a little bit more difficult,
Yes.
but
No.
while we have the nice weather.
Yeah. So, and as you mentioned, lunch. So we understand that whatever we are, for me, food is fuel. Food is not, if you too much enjoy the food, that becomes a problem. So
Mhm,
food is a fuel. Food you can enjoy, obviously. That does not mean that you should not enjoy, but nutrition is a key component of healthy lifestyle. So
mhm.
can you provide some basic practical tips to maintain balanced diet, and especially those who have busy schedules? I have given you some examples, students, professionals, and specifically moms, working moms.
Mhm.
Yes.
Um, I find, especially because it wasn't too long ago that I was a student living on my own and dealing with all of this,
Mhm.
um, I find that keeping it simple is probably one of the best things that I've learned. Where I think a lot of people can get overwhelmed with, oh, I see all these recipes online, I see all these
Yeah.
services where they're like, oh, we can still make cooking easy for you, we just give you all the ingredients. I still find that a lot of that can be difficult and overwhelming depending on your experience with cooking and also your lifestyle. Because even if you have experience, like you mentioned, if you're a working mom, or if you are both a student and you're also working, you don't always have the time to figure out a simple recipe or go through all the motions. So I think keeping it simple and keeping it down to the basics of getting in your veggies and like your proteins, if you do take in like meats and everything, and just getting a little bit of every food group and just keeping it as simple as possible. And honestly, it's a pain sometimes, but also meal prep is also the biggest thing and helps a lot of people. Um, I feel like there's this mentality that meal prep is specifically for those people who go to the gym and who need to get in their certain calorie intake and everything, or their protein intake. But a lot of people fail to realize that meal prep is just as simple as preparing your meal so you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So keeping it simple to the best of your abilities is probably the best thing. But like you also mentioned, I think that everything should be in moderation, and you should never, if you find that you are limiting yourself to the point where you say no sweets, no desserts, no fried foods, no this, no that, none of that, assuming that you don't have any health implications or anything, or health restrictions. If you find that you're limiting yourself to that point where you're cutting it out completely, I think that I wouldn't necessarily think that you're doing it wrong, but I think that you are slightly missing the point, because everything should be in moderation, and you should never have to be at a point where you are cutting out all those things completely to the point where you never touch it ever again in your life. So
Yeah.
keeping it simple, going to the basics, I think is a good way. And then slowly moving into more specifics when you understand it and also when you have more of the time. But also, I think just even doing your research, the simplest basic research. I know that I spoke on the fact that social media was such an implication before and created so many problems, but I think it's about how you look at it and how you use it. Because yes, social media can be used in that aspect, but it can also be used to learn a little bit more about nutrition or learn about how you can keep things simple and basic. There are so many recipes out there now, especially on obviously TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, of just basic meals and basic things that you need to include that anybody could listen to or just watch quickly to get their basic understanding. And then when they have more time to really sit down and figure out what their body needs or what their lifestyle needs.
Yeah, it is. It is very interesting to hear to you because yesterday we were interviewing, probably your interview and her interview will go in the same issue. We were talking to a nutritionist, and she said that just be very basic, exactly what you said, and said that you are investing in your health by doing this. Do not take it as a burden. You're investing in your health. And she also mentioned one thing, because she is a nutritionist, that do not store the foods in plastic containers. Do it in a glass container so that it becomes healthy whenever you warm it and everything. And your suggestions and her suggestions are so aligned that keep it simple, keep it brief, keep it healthy, and do not burden yourself. It's so fascinating. So while we are talking about busyness,
Mm-hmm.
um, you wear so many hats in the day or in the week, I say.
Yeah.
So how do you balance your professional responsibilities? You are leading a team as well, and maintain your own health and well-being. How does this balance? Because I'm from HR. In HR, we do not call it work-life balance. We call it now work-life integration.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? Just to benefit our readers.
I will say, and I want to be as candid as possible, where I say it is not easy. I think that there are so many people out there who make it very known that, oh, you can just do this, or you can just do this, or it took some time, but I figured it out now. I've been doing this for majority of my life, balancing whether it's team practices or competitions to school every single day to getting a degree to a full-time job to multiple jobs. um, it's never easy, and it's always changing. Don't ever think that the schedule is set where, okay, I made this schedule for myself, I made this plan for myself, it's never going to change. In 2 months it's not going to change, it's going to stay exactly the same. Because thinking like that, I think, limits yourself. And I would be lying if I said that I had it figured out now. Yes, I have more of a routine and figured out better on how I balance things. But like I said, it's ever changing. Yes, before I think it was a lot more difficult because school happens in different times, especially when you're in university, classes will vary.
Hmm.
Obviously, it's a lot easier for somebody who has a 9 to 5 job versus a nurse in an ER to get things going. But I think also, going back honestly to what you told me about the nutritionist too, is just don't make it a burden for yourself. I find that when you are truly enjoying it and you understand that it's for the benefit of your health and for your future, and also for anybody who wants to have kids, it's for your kids as well, because anybody who can have them genetically and everything and naturally, you're passing on a lot of your genetics over to your kids. And this is something that they're going to be picking up, whether it's through your mannerisms and how you raised them, but also your genetics itself. So
Yes.
that's what I'm always thinking about in the long run, where my kids I can pick to have kids, I can choose to have kids, but they don't get that choice. So I want to make sure that when, they are born and when they are in this world, that they're set up for success in the best way possible in so many different ways. But just making sure that you find ways or different things that you enjoy, because once you start finding something that you enjoy, balancing things, integrating things into your life become almost automatic. and you never feel like it's a burden, or it's never at the back of your mind of, oh shoot, I need to make time. I have to make time for this in my life, when it's more of, like I said, something natural that happens, or something where I can't wait to make this for myself. I can't wait to find time to do this. And I know a lot of people also say this, where it's about making time and not just finding time. Because if you're sitting there finding time for the rest of your life, you will never find it, and it will never be consistent. But also just staying simple. And like I said, just keeping things simple and keeping it to what you enjoy. And I think that's the easiest thing, to find that integration and that balance.
I really like the sentence that you just said, that if you want to find time, you'll never find, probably, because of the crazy busy life of ours. But if you want to make time, you can make time.
Yeah.
You can just easily make time. I always say, for my routine, I am very, very focused how I start the day, how I end the day.
Yeah.
Because in between the day, it is always hijacked. It is always hijacked by my school, by my children, by my Magazika job. It's always something is coming up. But morning, 2 hours, and 1.5 hour, that's the only routine I can maintain. Otherwise, no.
And
As
hey,
you
at
were,
least that's a platform.
sorry?
That's a platform, and that's something to build on, and it's always a good start. At least you know when you have that point.
Yes. I, I,
Figure.
I, yeah, I religiously try it, because otherwise I think that I will go crazy, because nothing is under my control. And this lack of sense of control, that I do not know what I'm doing, or I mean, I'm doing everything, but at the end of the day, it feels like that I'm doing nothing. That is why you said a very beautiful thing, that the things you love, things you like, that gives you the grounding. So fascinating thought on that. We have touched a bit, Connor, about social media and everything. Very quickly, we will wrap it. Technology is rapidly changing, I think, health and fitness industry. So, for example, fitness trackers that we wear and our wearables and everything. There are, like, we can say there are two camps of it, whether you wear it, don't wear it, and everything. What are some innovative tools or apps um, that you recommend, if you can recommend, for tracking and improving health?
Um, I think that this is, again, difficult for me to speak on specifically, just because I don't have too much experience with it. I do have an Apple Watch, but it's more so for business purposes, because I'm always on the move.
Yeah.
And I just like to keep my watch on me because it helps with not having my phone. Um, I think, honestly, for anybody who's starting out specifically, again, go back to the basics. Finding something simple that can track the simplest of things, like something as simple as just a heart rate monitor, and I would say steps. I wouldn't even go as far as to count calories, because I don't think all of these are as accurate as you want it to be.
Yeah.
And also, I personally, I'm not a big advocate for counting calories or figuring out these things, at least for myself personally. Which is always something interesting that people hear when they hear of my degree, because they say, aren't you supposed to count calories? Aren't you supposed to like that stuff? And in my mind, I think just sticking to the basics of, like, even like the monitor that you have for yourself, I'm assuming that it does track your steps and your heart rate for the most part. Just taking all of those and keeping it basic and keeping it simple, and also taking all of that with a grain of salt, I think helps the most, because again, it's technology, it's developing, but it's not always going to be 110% accurate. So understanding all of that and just keeping it simple, I think you can get so overwhelmed with so many different apps. Yes, I know there are many different things out there that I think maybe more professional people in the industry can recommend. But for myself, I think it's just keeping it simple, just making sure that you're getting in a certain amount of steps every single day, and then just also having a heart rate monitor for your sake, so you know that or you have something that tells you maybe your heart rate is going up a little bit too high, which is something to keep in mind for your overall health, or just keeping track of how your heart is doing. Sometimes it's just honestly nice. But yeah, just keeping it simple is the biggest thing. It's always just going back to the basics. Keep it simple.
Yeah, I can easily relate to that. And while again, I was thinking to you, so just listening to you, I thought that okay, without understanding, I was doing kind of right things because I use this for three things: heart rate, steps, and an alarm for because I'm in a sedentary job, just to alarm to go out and walk. Like every 1 hour, it gives me an alarm that go out and walk for 5 or 10 minutes. That's the three things I use it for. So nothing big stuff, nothing. There are so many things, but I use it for these three things because sometimes the job is stressful, so heart rate goes up and everything. I
Yes.
have a cholesterol issue, so that's the thing. No, fantastic. As a general manager of Fit for Less, you see the gym participants and everything. Two questions here. One is from the members who are coming to the gym. What are the most common health and fitness challenges you see? First part of the question. Second part of the question is that while you are leading the team, because every industry, the thing is different. So you are in a leading position. What are the challenges that you feel while leading your team? So
Mhm.
challenges faced by the gym members, common health problems, and
Mhm.
challenges for leading the team of your fitness in your fitness industry. Two
Mhm.
things.
So, in terms of the fitness challenges that I see members go through, one thing to keep in mind, obviously, is that I work for a gym where we don't have personal trainers. It's not something that the
Oh,
company brings in or anything. It's more so self-motivated and self
okay.
taught fitness.
Okay.
But I do obviously interact with many of my members, and I find that it depends also on the demographic of your members. Depending on which area you are in, it can vary from community to community. I have many friends who are also managers in the industry, and what they see is very different from what I see sometimes. Again, depends on where you are. But I find the biggest thing has just been honestly, something as simple as consistency. I find that there could be so many people who come in who, again, don't look the part, or maybe they are fit and they do look the part, but I don't see them quite often. I think it's the ones and the members that I see almost every single day and that are committed to a set routine, no matter what it is that you're coming to do in the gym, but just coming in and doing something and doing it almost every day. Those are the people that I think are getting the most benefits from it. And consistency is very, 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 very hard for people, especially on the younger side of things, or just people who are busy. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that a lot of people deal with, even if they're not coming to the gym. Like you said, for your steps and taking a walk every single day, it's about being consistent every single day
Yeah.
and doing these things every single day. And when you don't, you slowly start to see the implications and the difficulties that it does create. And I think that's one thing that just everybody struggles with in general in their life, but especially in fitness. Um, and then just in general with my team, again, because we don't specifically work with the members itself, just I guess I can speak on the side of all my experience in fitness, because prior to this, I also did work at a personal training gym. So
Yeah.
a little bit different. But I think in general, the fitness industry that's difficult for people is just coming to the realization that you need to have, again, the consistency, but also the motivation and the desire to want to do that, whether it's helping people or whether it's doing something for yourself. Even just when it comes to working in the fitness industry and having staff with that kind of mentality, it's about staying consistent, and it's about wanting to show up to your job every single day and do what you do, even if it's maybe something that you don't enjoy at the very moment. It's something that you I think, need to do, and you need to have some, I think, some level of self-respect for yourself and for respect for other people in the industry that you're working in. And especially remembering that for fitness, it's heavily impacted on your mindset and also the type of people that you surround yourself with. So I think that's always the most important thing.
So to lead a team or a group of people in the fitness industry, the basic qualities that you need in your team, or if you are a part of a team as a member, so motivation to help others, show up every day, and having a self-respect so that you can create a positive ambience around the team.
Yes, because how you view yourself, I think, plays a huge role in when it comes to leading a team, but also being part of a team, because it helps you to understand your role, other people's role, and also just what expectations you set for yourself, I think make a big difference in any sort of industry that you work in, whether it's, or even whether you're playing sports or anything like that. It's about how you see yourself and what you see that you're capable of.
Expectation you set for yourself. That's a very important line because that is directly related to almost all leadership positions in almost all industries, because
Yes.
it's very, very good to have the boundary of responsibility for yourself and for your team members as well. And if you can
Exactly.
communicate that in a very articulate way, that is fantastic. Finally, the last question, what advice would you have for individuals who are new to fitness, and may feel intimidated by starting a workout routine? For example, I think for myself as a common person, if I go now into the gym, I will see all those like aesthetically beautiful people, and it will be, I do not know, I haven't been there, but I think I'll be intimidated, at least primarily for a few seconds and everything. So people who are now starting for their health journey, starting their fitness journey, so that they can function, you put it very nicely, they can function in their everyday life without any implication. What would be your advice to them?
Mm, I think the best thing would first off be to just start and just be a part of it. Like you said, for a lot of the time, um, the fear that you have is something that you really only feel for the first little bit, or in some cases, the first time that you go, you're only really going to feel it for that one time. And
Yeah.
every single time it's going to get easier, and it's going to like the fear is going to go down, and you're slowly going to get used to all of it. Like people say, the hardest step is always taking that first step, walking through that door. But once you do that, I think that it just becomes so much easier, and just getting started in general helps so much. And I think the other thing, if possible for a lot of people, is just bringing in a friend or a family member or just somebody to offer that moral support for you, even if it's something as simple as like through a phone call or something, or just like through a text message or anything like that, where you just have somebody who is part of your support system and who can give you that extra bit of motivation when you're not feeling it, to be like, you got this, you can do it, just keep going. Even if you end up leaving early from your workout, at least you showed up that day. And I think that's what's important, showing up and just pushing yourself for that first little step. And it gets easier more that you do it. But I think it's also a learning curve, and it takes time to learn how to go about this and how to feel. And it's something that everybody is still feeling, even for myself. I've been in the fitness industry for years, but I still feel intimidated sometimes when I go into a certain gym or I go in during a certain time. It really just depends. And it's about, again, the expectations that you have for yourself and the mentality that you set for yourself.
Yeah. And also the goal you set for yourself, and exactly know why you are going to the gym. So,
Exactly.
so um, Thank you. Thank you very much for the conversation. I learned a lot of things about fitness today because so many things, the idea was not clear to me. And it is always, always beneficial to talk with an expert. And you are just like that. So yeah, I'll stop the recording right now. So thank you very much for being with us.
Of course.